In the world of Bluey, there is a little puppy who seems very happy, but in reality, she isn't. We're talking about Koko. Do you really know the hidden truth behind the pink poodle? Siblings. Koko is a puppy who was born last in a family with 9 puppies, and that has everything to do with her not being that happy. It's strange to think about it this way, because this little dog, in theory, has a loving family, where her 8 siblings would be her best friends and protectors. But there is a big problem there. Koko doesn't receive the attention she needs exactly because her parents have many children to raise, and they are in heavier phases of life. And yes, everyone knows that when a new puppy is born, it's common for parents to give more attention to them. That's why many people think the pink poodle is very protected by the others, but that's not really how it works. The life of a puppy Koko's age involves playtime and lighter things, but the lives of the older siblings involve important school responsibilities, college, a first job, and difficult choices. It's impossible for her parents to give equal attention to 9 children, and since the problems in the poodle's life are less serious, it's almost certain that Bluey's friend receives less time with her parents than she truly needs. Does that make her feel distant from her family? We're about to find out much more about this right now.
That's right, another Cinewave is coming for you to enjoy.
Die. Have you ever noticed that Koko is a pink poodle? Calm down, we know everyone noticed that, but the interesting part is that pink dogs don't exist, and it doesn't matter if this is a kid's cartoon. Bluey uses many examples of things that exist in the real world. The theory says that, in reality, Koko is forced by her mother to dye her hair several times a year to keep the color, because this is a family tradition. And in truth, we don't know what Koko's real color actually is. Maybe you're thinking, Bluey is blue, and dogs like that don't exist either, but that's not quite true. The blue heeler dog breed has a natural coat color that looks a little bit blue, which is why the breed is called that. But in the case of the color pink, that's not possible. That's why Koko needs to keep dyeing her own fur along with her parents and siblings because of some family tradition. And that's not very nice, because it takes a lot of work, not to mention that it might not be healthy at all, since the dye might not be good for the skin. Have you ever thought about what the puppy's real color is? That's a mystery. Money. Another sad thing about Koko is that, most likely, her family doesn't have much money to take care of her. Let's remember that we're talking about a puppy in a family with 11 members. Can you imagine how much money someone needs to raise 9 puppies? That's a lot. And that creates several problems, because maybe Koko is a puppy who is going through financial difficulties. Of course, a show like Bluey isn't going to show something that heavy, just like it doesn't show the truth about the death of the protagonist's older sibling. But this is another one of the hidden realities of the animated series. Could the pink poodle's family be struggling because of a lack of money? Is this really happening in her life? What do you think? Would you like to be a puppy in the poodle family? Comment the hashtag pink so we can get to know you.
Butterfly. Have you noticed that Koko is a little puppy who has a butterfly hair clip on her ear, holding her hair, right? But have you ever wondered what that means? For those who don't know the creator of the series, Joe Brumm had, as one of his first animations, a blue butterfly, and he uses the character Koko and her hair accessory as a tribute to his old work. But in Bluey, we also meet Flappy, a butterfly who becomes friends with Bingo. One theory says that, in reality, this very famous insect in the series is much more connected to Koko than to Bingo, especially because Koko appears more often with this symbol. The theory says that the pink puppy must have had a butterfly friend when she was younger, but butterflies live for a short time, and unfortunately, Koko's friend passed away. Something that will also happen to Flappy. That's why the poodle puppy wears that accessory, because it's a way for her to always remember the butterfly friend she lost. Do you think the little puppy feels sad? Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a character who seems to be the handsome boy in the group, and Koko noticed that, which is why she likes him so much. In the episode Circus, we discover that she is completely in love with the border collie. She asks him to pretend to be her husband during the game Bluey invented, but Mackenzie doesn't like the idea and rejects the girl. It hasn't been confirmed whether the border collie rejected the poodle because he already likes Bluey, but we don't think so because they are still very young to feel something like that. The problem is that when Mackenzie said he didn't want to be her husband in the game, game, Koko became very sad and even asked Bluey to force him to be her husband. Hopefully this doesn't lead to a fight between the friends in the future, because everyone knows that Bluey and Mackenzie will end up together, Winton. But the opposite also happens. In the episode Typewriter, we discover that Winton, the bulldog, definitely likes the pink puppy, but his feelings are not returned. When Calypso is about to tell a story to her students, Winton makes a gesture asking to sit next to Koko, but from her expression we can tell that the little puppy isn't very interested. And this is a big problem, because maybe she doesn't know what to do in this situation. Koko doesn't know how to show, in a polite way, to Winton that she doesn't feel about Winton the way he wants her to. Of course, she is friends with the bulldog and doesn't want him to feel sad, but this conversation will have to happen at some point, and the little puppy might feel a bit guilty about his sadness when she says that she doesn't share the same feelings. But it's important to make it clear that Koko is not at fault at all. It's completely normal for one person not to like another. It will be hard for Winton, but he needs to understand. What do you think about this?
Subscribing is quick, easy, and keeps you updated with everything happening here. Let's go! The rules. Have you ever noticed that this little puppy is a character who doesn't have many friends, and that the few she does have might abandon her in the future? Yes, this is true, and it could happen as early as the next season because of a flaw that Koko has. She doesn't know how to play properly! If you pay attention to the episode Shadowlands, you'll understand what we mean. The pink puppy is at the park with Bluey and Snickers. They are playing What Time Is It?, where one person stands with their back turned while the others have to move closer until it's time to run away from the person who is turned around. In the episode, we notice that Koko always finds a way to change the rules to make the game easier for herself. And that's terrible, because Bluey says she doesn't like playing with the poodle for that reason. The protagonist says that her friend always finds a way to change the rules to make the game easier for herself, and the worst part is that they all change the game into a simple one. They need to reach their moms, but without stepping on the ground where the sunlight is hitting. In other words, everyone can only walk on the shadows. That's an easy rule, right? But Koko finds a way to try to change that just to make the game easier, and that makes Bluey very angry. The protagonist has to keep reminding her friend that she can't change the rules, and that's terrible because it's proof that at some point her friends might end up abandoning the pink poodle. Koko has a high chance of having a very sad adult life, because if she doesn't learn that she can't do this kind of thing where her friends get irritated, she will end up alone, and that's not good at all. Alone. Speaking of ending up alone, Koko has a preview of what her future might look like in the episode Wild Girls, when she asks her friends Indy and Chloe to join her in playing Girls Who Live in the Woods. But there's a problem. The girls don't want to take part in the game because all the other friends want to play something else in the schoolyard. The pink puppy doesn't accept that her friends are doing something else, and that makes her very sad. And look how brilliant this is, because at that moment, the little puppy doesn't understand that she can't force people to do what they don't want to do. Notice how this is the same thing Bluey explains to the poodle in the circus episode, when she wanted to force Mackenzie to pretend to be her husband. Do you see how the pink puppy likes to force people, and they get irritated and then drift away? That's why Bluey's friend could end up alone in the future with nobody liking her. That's sad, right? Hopefully nothing bad happens. Worms. The episode TV Shop is one of the proofs of how difficult this little puppy's life is. The story begins with Bluey and Bingo in Bandit's car, and they say that Koko was feeling sick at school and had to go back home. Bandit thinks that the puppy's illness might be worms, but this hasn't been confirmed at that point in the episode. In the story, Bandit takes his daughters to a pharmacy because Dad needs to buy some vitamins, but there the girls realize that the poodle is somewhere in the store because of the security cameras. That's when Bluey gets the idea for them to look for their friend. At the end of the story, we discover that the puppy's illness really was worms in her stomach, and that's a serious problem because worms can cause vomiting and diarrhea. Luckily, she was at the pharmacy to buy medicine, but in a family with 9 puppies, worms might be something that happens more than once because they spread easily. Poor poodle. She really goes through a lot, right? Hair. In the episode Seesaw, when the girls are trying to get Bandit off the playground equipment, we discover something very interesting about the pink puppy. Bluey says that her hair is frizzy, and that's an interesting detail. Koko is one of the most appearance-conscious puppies in the series, and that's fine. She probably only loses in that area to Judo, who needs to take a lot of care of her fur, but this shows a detail about the poodle's normal
life. If her hair is very curly, then she needs to spend a lot of time getting ready to maintain a good appearance, in addition to dyeing it, if the dye theory is correct. But she has 8 siblings, and all of them need a good amount of time in front of the bathroom mirror. That means she has to share bathroom time with several people, and that takes time, plus a lot of shampoo, conditioner, and everything a girl needs to maintain one of the most beautiful coats in the series. It must be pretty difficult, don't you agree? But what's easy is staying here with us and having fun.
Before you go, take a look at the 2 videos on the screen. Thanks for watching, and see you next time!